Welcome to Wuxiaworld's Teahouse Season 2. I'm your host, Yojj.
And I'm Tokki. Last week, we dove into SSS Class Revival Hunter, where Namu joined us for the radio drama, and Yojj dropped an S each time she said the title. This week, we're gonna talk about the first 20 chapters of The Reticent Blade, written by Lazy and translated by Nocturnian. Awesome translator, by the way. And I believe even Deathblade acknowledged that he did an awesome job translating. But, there was a small caveat that he would have handled things differently. But come on.
I mean, just the fact that Deathblade reviewed on it was, I think that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Deathblade would comment, would review your novel, probably a lot of pressure on Nocturnian.
I mean, I guess if the fact that Deathblade reviewed on it, it has to show that there's quite a lot to talk about the novel, right? I mean, from my perspective, reading the first 20 chapters was mysterious. It's confusing, I guess in the best way. And all those cool names.
So, initial thoughts about the novel. What intrigued you the most?
Honestly, the vibes. The Reticent Blade just drops you into the middle of this ancient world with zero hand-holding. There's tea, there's swords, there's tension, and you have no clue who anyone is.
Yeah, well, I did find it kind of interesting that the author used actual history, probably most of the time, the Oirat tribes and all the tribal nations that he mentioned, all of them actually existed in time. But one thing I do agree with you is 20 chapters in, I still have no idea who's who.
I have no idea who the main character is or if there's multiple main characters. I did hear that there might be multiple characters, but I have no idea. We have names that keep repeating, but I'm are you a side character, an important side character? Or are you just the silent, mysterious main character? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, one person is mentioned in the synopsis, so I'm guessing that he could be the MC, but from the way that the early 20 chapters are going, I think it's anyone's guess, anyone could be an MC. Probably, who knows, maybe it's one of those rare novels where there's a lot of MCs.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the synopsis right now and...
Huh?
Which name is mentioned?
Are we looking
Am I
at
tripping?
the same thing?
Are we?
Oh, okay. There's no name mentioned.
I was there's no name mentioned. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
I
you
missed
really
it.
just going in and not knowing who the main character is. And that's just so different from what I'm used to.
Another thing I kind of observe is the novel progresses it's quite slow paced. It's not as fast paced as the novels that we've gotten used to.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
It's very slow. 15 chapters in, I was just okay, it's really building up, It's a whole bunch of exposition, introduction. You kind of get hints of characters here and there, and you have to get to chapter 20 for there to finally be some kind of an action. And I will be honest here, it kind of drove me nuts in the beginning until I was you know what? Relax. It's just going to be one of those slow novels like Lord of the Rings. Dense world building where the end result will be hopefully satisfying. But I have to sit down, relax, take a chill pill as I'm reading.
Yeah, I think if you kind of look back to the paperback novels that we grew up reading, probably 40 years ago.
We're not that old.
Yeah. I mean, the paperback novels that we grew up with has the same vibe as The Reticent Blade. And, novels back then were very slow and it progresses step by step. And I just feel that we kind of got used to... We kind of got used to instant gratification novels where web novels especially
You're
things would
right.
be like bam, bam, bam. It was like one thing happening right after another. That this kind of feels a very old school kind of writing style. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. With a lot of web novels these days, each chapter there has to be something exciting in each chapter. But with this one, um, I think like the beginning chapter was kind of like the setting opening scene, and I was just left wondering, okay, so like, that it? But I had to move on to the next chapter to finally get something else. So you're absolutely right. It does remind me back of like the more traditional novels that we grew up with,
Mhm.
where each chapter it builds up into the next one. There's not action happening in every single chapter, every single page.
But I think that does kind of match the concept of the novel very well because, mind you, this is a Wuxia novel, a real Wuxia novel. So, Wuxiaworld finally has a real Wuxia novel after a very long
A
time.
true wuxia. Finally getting back into
True,
the
the
name, right?
essence of Wuxia, yeah. So, um, I'm guessing that there won't be a lot of overpoweredness like Xiansha novels where you cultivate so much that you can destroy planets with your tongue.
Okay, I don't know about that, but like I feel like one of the characters pretty deadly, silent and deadly. Just doesn't talk, but he
Hmm.
seems very powerful,
Yeah, but
but
so far, at
not
least
planet
so far from
destroying.
what I have read, until what I have read now, it's more like power intrigue than
Uh-huh.
actual mystical power or like energy, mana, those kind of things. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
more like
Yeah.
swordsmanship, martial artist, like assassination skills, rather than like those
Flick of a
otherworldly
finger and you
powers.
just kill someone.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think for a lot of the wuxia purists out there who generally like they enjoy those pure form of wuxia or murim, I'll just throw that in too. I think
Mm.
this novel would cater towards them.
So as I was reading the beginning couple chapters, I just kept thinking of like a watercolor painting almost. The lines aren't
Hmm.
crisp. You don't know who the characters are. You don't know how this all connects. But like if you take a step back, like it kind of builds something. Because like the web novels that we're used to now, every character like you know exactly what role they play. But here there's kind of like blurred. The edges just felt really blurred to me. So like I kept thinking of watercolor paintings as I was reading it.
That's a very deep way of putting it.
I don't know if it's deep, but I was just like it just felt like watercolor, maybe even like ink painting. It's not like vividly colored. Like maybe it's because I picture stuff as I'm reading, but none of the scenes were vividly described to me. Like I couldn't really draw crisp characters, crisp setting in my mind. It just felt very vague, watery.
But adding on what you said just now, one thing I did mention after reading like the first 10 chapters, at first I was actually thinking like, what the hell is going on? Like
Me
one thing
too.
goes to another and like nothing's making sense. And it's like everything is being explained, but I don't really get what's going on in this novel. But then once you kind of drop 20 chapters, like you go 20 chapters in the novel, one interesting thing I noticed about myself
Mm,
was
mm.
all the previous explanations and the narration and the dialogues that did not make sense kind of slowly started forming together. Did you notice that when you were reading?
Yeah, they kind of like, oh, I was like, okay, now they're all linking together.
Yep. So uh, I find it amazing how the author's writing style, and of course, like the translator did a good job conveying what the author wanted to do. It was more like the author was fitting you information without you kind of realizing, and he wasn't like shoving it down your throat. He was
Mm,
kind of laying it out there for you to read, for you to remember, and for you to connect the dots later. And
Connecting the dots,
that's
yeah.
why I said this really feels like the old school writing type, the paperback novels that we grew up with. Because
Lord of the Rings. Maybe we should be
nowadays,
taking notes as we're reading it.
um, it's up to you if you want to study novels.
No, I like my novels kind of like, spoon-fed to me quick and easy. Especially now. I have a much shorter attention span now.
But I guess that's because we kind of got used to fast-paced novels. I mean, there's nothing wrong with fast-paced novels. I love fast-paced novels because I have the attention span of a gnat.
Yep, me too. But
Yeah.
if you want to like take a step back from the busy world, I think this would be a good one to read.
I'm not sure about that because I had to exert a lot of brain power to read this. Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was like a quick, easy read. I was definitely frustrated as I was reading because I was expecting more information. But if you kind of just sit back and just read it peacefully, I feel like you absorb what is being said better than like if you're trying to like forcefully connect the dots when the dots aren't there yet. Because like you said, like 20 chapters in, you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. But like at that moment, you're like, it doesn't make sense. So you kind of just gotta sit back and just read.
Yojj, if you put it like that, you're making it sound like I'm a plankton. A single brain cell plankton.
It's okay. We could share a brain cell together. You and I will you can have it one day and I'll have it the other day.
Brain cell for rent. Never evolved. Okay, I mean, moving on. One thing I did, I think you pointed it out a while ago, we talked about it, it's like the lack of clear indication of who the protagonist is. I think there's a stark contrast to what we're used to, especially in Korean novels, right?
100%. 100% agreed. I have no idea who the main character is. Like, with Korean web novels, it's really obvious from the get-go who the main character is. Sometimes you even get the backstory, like the entire backstory in chapter 1, if not the prologue. Looking at you, I'm the crazy one in the family. But like, it's insane how that's not happening here in the Reticent Blade. Reticent Blade.
Did you bite your tongue or something? You okay?
Yeah, why?
Oh. Because you said Reticent Blade and you went silent.
Oh, did Riverside cut me off again? It's been a while since they've done that. No, I was just talking
what
about
were you saying? Yeah.
Well, you first brought up the fact that Korean novels and Chinese novels, especially this one, was so different. The fact that we don't know who the main character is. And I was just agreeing with you that, yeah, we don't know. And that's so different because in Korean novels, you get the character, you get the main character, you get the whole backstory. You kind of figure out where the plot is going with the entire novel. But this one, we're kind of left hanging. It's all a mystery.
That's true. I mean, you're not really introduced to one of the main characters until I'll probably say chapter 2. Not a spoiler, I'm not gonna mention who. And even then, you don't really get to know the character properly until like a few chapters down the line, right?
Yeah, like, and if we're talking about the same character, like, are we even sure he's the main character? He barely speaks.
I mean, who knows, maybe things will develop from now on. So, to summarize my opinion of The Reticent Blade, it is a classic Wuxia novel where, at least so far, you don't get a lot of high-flying action. It's more like a very martial arts novel, and it has a lot of slow-paced world building going on. So for people who like this kind of concepts, like a slow story with a lot of densely packed information that's not being shoved down your throat, then people like them should definitely give this novel a try.
See, I was like listening to you, like my ears all perked up, and you're like densely packed and shoved down your throat, and I'm like, those are so like strong words. Because me, Alice, I think like, you know what? Not an easy read, but still a nice read where the world building kind of like grows slowly. Like it's a traditional world building, you know? It's not everything just crammed in all at once. It's just kind of like taking a step by step, chapter by chapter. But you're absolutely right. It is kind of slow. But
you're
in a
making
busy
it
world,
sound like I'm some sort of brute, you know?
well, in a busy world, it's nice that it's slow.
One thing I do want to add is usually these kind of novels that, fingers crossed, the author will maintain like quality, because so far the quality is really good. It's this kind of novels that kind of grows on you because you're so invested in it that 1,000, 2,000 chapters down the line, you kind of get absorbed in it and you become a loyal reader. So a lot of novels um, I did it in the past, like paperback novels. So
Mm,
who knows? Maybe this would be one of those.
fingers crossed.
Thanks for joining us on Wuxiaworld's Teahouse. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the follow button to stay updated with our latest releases. If you want more tea, hop over to our social media or Discord. And send us an email if you want to spill the tea. We'll be back every Friday of each month, so check out our website, wuxiaworld.com. See you in the next episode. Bye!